So I am sponsored by my company, both in terms of the time as well as the financial side. Merck has a long-standing history of sponsoring Wharton executive MBAs, and I think for me it may be slightly easier than maybe some of you in the audience because they do have that relationship with Wharton. They know what they get out of a Wharton Executive MBA program. At the same time, I did need to establish the fact that the Wharton Executive MBA program was right for me, and that they would get that return back. And I do say that my request for sponsorship was probably my first business school assignment, and the fact that what I did do was put together a business case for what the value was to me and what the return to Merck would be afterwards. And you really do need that commitment from your company and that support, because there are some flexibilities and things that you will have to negotiate during your school tenure that are important for your employer to understand as you're going through the 2 years.
I had a very small portion of the tuition sponsored by the company. I had the option of being more aggressive about seeking much more sponsorship, chose not to because it seemed reasonably likely that I might want to evaluate other things in the few years after I finished the program. So it was partially a choice. But in terms of persuading the firm, this was a consulting firm at the time, one of the very first things I did was to locate people at the consulting firm who were partners and leaders in the firm who had been through WEMBA or been through Wharton at a minimum and could understand directly why I wanted to do it. And I did prepare myself. I will admit I did not prepare a written business plan. I didn't walk around with a document that I handed to anybody. But I thought about it very, very carefully in terms of what's in it for the firm and what's in it for the people who work with me and who depend on me. What were they going to get out of it? What were my consulting clients going to get out of it? So at the drop of a hat, I could always have a conversation that wasn't about what I wanted to do or what was in it for me, but what would help the firm, what would help our clients, what was in it for them. And that's a different answer for anybody, so my answer would be meaningless to you, but I would argue that all of you should have that answer ready to go. What's in it for them? What will they get out of it as well?
I wasn't sponsored, well, sponsored by time, but not sponsored at all financially from my company. And when I look at an ROI, I guess I could think of it two ways. One is sort of the tangible, what's the value financially that I've gained from Wharton versus the cost of the tuition. And clearly, if you looked at the business, which started as an idea back in 1994 and is doing very well today, 15 years later, I suppose we could put a financial price tag on an ROI. But what I think is really more important than that is sort of who you become as a person. And we've spoken about confidence, we've spoken about how to be resourceful, we've spoken about the network of people and peers that you meet. And so I think for me, while there may be a financial tag to an ROI, I think that the intangible and one that I think is more dear to my heart is just who you've become as a person. And that doesn't have a price.
So I don't think it can be said better than the first three answers you've heard. I'll just build on it and say I also had a what I call a personal acceleration plan that I put together. That was, here's my commitment I'm going to make, and here's what I'm looking for as an investment in me and my future at the company. But that document was incomplete unless it was, here's how it's going to benefit the company. And so that's really, really critically important if anyone is reaching out to their employers to really, it's got to be a partnership. The other piece of advice I'd give you is one I'm stealing from one of the Coveys, senior or junior, and that is declare your intent. And be really honest about that. And if your intent is to cash in and get a Wharton MBA and go somewhere else, don't worry about sponsorship with your company. Don't waste your own time and energy doing that. But if you do believe in the company that you're with and you want to stick around, be prepared to stay and make a commitment and help them make the financials pay back for them as well. I stayed for several years after I graduated. I'm fairly confident that it actually paid back during the time I was there because I had the great fortune of going through an awesome negotiations class while I was in the middle of negotiating a bunch of contracts for my company, and really felt as though the tangible benefit came right away. But I stuck through my commitment and stand by that.
For me, the proof of ROI was actually an easy proposition, but maybe some advice I can offer you from that easy proposition. I happened to have a great relationship with my boss, who was the CEO at the time. It helped that he was a Wharton MBA alum, so he knew the value of Wharton. It also helped that he very much was invested in me at that time, and he was promoting a learning organization and a leadership development organization. So this was really, if I showed the interest, which I did, it was easy for him to say yes because of all those things. And I think in terms of proving ROI, because we had such a good relationship and the CFO and the CEO interact with each other every day, I think he could see every day what I was bringing into the workplace, whether it was technical skills or whether it was higher level skills or whether it was just confidence. He could see that return every day. But in that, what was easier for me, because I worked for a small organization and had that relationship, the advice I would say is one way of conducting the business case or proving the value of this is find somebody in your organization who has a sympathetic ear. Somebody who's either done this program before or done a similar program or strongly believes in intense learning and growth, and then go to that person and make your case to that person as to why it will be, because they might be right in front of you, they might not, but they may be an influential person in the organization who can help you.